So I'm sure that you've heard it before, someone saying something along the lines of change your environment, change your life. Well, I'm here to tell you that that could not be more accurate. And I'm going to tell you why in this podcast. And not only am I going to tell you why, but I'm going to give you my personal example, my personal discovery, my personal firsthand experience as to why that is true. So without further ado, let's jump in.
Traveling to consciousness, exploring spiritual journeys to find answers in uncertainty.
Welcome to another episode of Traveling to Consciousness. As always, I am your host, Clayton, and in this week's episode, we have a Catch Up With Clayton episode. Dun, 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 dun. So, in this week, we are going to be talking about what's going on in my life. But more specifically, we are going to be talking about environment and the power that environment plays in your life. This is honestly going to be a bombshell of a podcast. I can already feel the energy that's been building up this week to deliver you guys this transmission. And this is going to be a big one. This is going to possibly shake some of you guys, hopefully in a positive direction. It may not be what you want to hear, but it is going to be the hard truth that you might need to hear. So as always, you know who I am. I'm Clayton. But guys, please, the zero cost way. I'm all about zero cost ways because I know it's a tough time. I know the money and everything is not flowing in the most optimal direction as of this moment. So please, the zero cost way you can support this channel is number one, by leaving a 5-star review on your medium of choice, your platform of choice. The number second, wow. Whew, it's a little bit late here. The number two way is by sharing this if you learn something valuable. So let's get on to that valuable stuff so you can find a reason to share this. Your environment. How many times have you heard or you've seen where people say, you need to change the environment. If you're not the smartest person in the room, or if you're the smartest person in the room, then you need to find a different room to be in. Those could not be more true. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because of the environment that I am currently in. This environment has reminded me of the power in those words. So where am I? Well, if you follow me on Instagram at Clayton, then you would know that I am in beautiful Southern California, San Diego specifically. So you might be asking yourself, okay, cool, Clayton, are you just here to brag about your amazing travels? And part of me wants to say yes, but the other part of me that wants to give you guys the hot, the juicy, the important information is also here. And he's here to tell you about the power of environment, because let's back the story up a little bit. You majority, maybe you have known, maybe you haven't known, I've been living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And Pittsburgh's been beautiful even. It's been beautiful the last week or so before I even made a venture out here to San Diego. But for some reason, it has been more difficult. For some reason, it was a little more difficult for me to get into the going to the gym, doing jujitsu energy, working out energy, to kind of do stuff. I've just been having a hard time with it. I don't know what it is. I'm making up excuses. So, all intents and purposes, don't be like me. But the point that I'm trying to get at here is that there's just been something off in the last few months, whether you chalk it up to the winter, the weather, the scene of Pittsburgh, but something was keeping me energetically from the gym. And there could be multiple answers to this, but I do want to focus on environment because now that I'm back in San Diego, literally today, Wednesday, April 19th, I know you're watching this on 420, so hopefully you're not too high listening to this, but maybe you are. That's cool too. I should have probably made this episode about 420, but let's rewind it. Damn. Should have stayed on that train of thought, because now I'm losing it. I'm losing you guys. This is why I should start editing my podcast. But let me get back to it. Environment. Because today, on April 19th, I worked out 3 times today. I got up, I went downstairs, and my very first thought was to go for a jog around the block. Literally jog around the block here in PV. So I did that. The next thing was to go to James Phillip. If you've listened to episode 3 or 14, you know James. And hopefully he's actually going to be back on the podcast soon. So send your energy out that hopefully James Phillips comes back on within the next couple of weeks. That's a whole nother thing. Then I went to yoga with James. And then I went and did jujitsu. So I worked out 3 times today. And quite frankly, that's 3 times more than I want to admit. I don't want to tell you how bad I've been about going to the gym recently, guys. But the whole point of this podcast and of my message is to tell you that the environment that you are in does, in fact, matter. It might be a tough pill to swallow. It was a tough pill for me to swallow for some reason. But if you're trying to create something, if you're trying to do something, you might need to find a different place to live. Because there's something there with the energetic imprint of the city you're in is having an effect on you. Whether it's positive or negative, whether you care to admit it or not, it is having an effect on you. And I truly believe that there's probably something to be said here for the people in that environment as well. Are the people happy? Are you with people who are always grouchy? Because that will make you grouchy. That energy, that frequency will pull you to the frequency of being grouchy. It's just, I guess, science, right? If we're all admitting energy and you're around bad energy, you're going to become bad energy. And so I wanted to extend this out that I think that the fundamental city in which you're in also plays a huge role. So if you're trying to constantly get something working, if you're trying to progress in one area of your life and you've tried everything, whether it's working out, whether it's making a podcast, this could be the key to the city that's holding you back. And I have thought about this because there are a ton of content creators that live in Austin, Texas. A whole lot of people who I've interviewed on my podcast live in Austin, Texas. So there is a piece of me that thinks maybe I should go and live in Austin, Texas for a little bit. And there's a piece of me that loves that idea. And the reason that I bring this up is because maybe it is. Maybe I should be going in there. Maybe there's podcast content creator energy out in Austin, Texas that could benefit me tremendously. So I can't really say for sure if I know that that's the answer. We can definitely have an environment round 2 kind of kick up in this podcast space in the future, on my podcast in the future, whatever you want to call it, blah, blah, blah. Man, I'm just out of it, guys. I'm also super juiced because I'm going to be going to Joshua Tree tomorrow. And I think this kind of goes to it as well. This actually probably takes the human component out of it a little bit too. Because in going to Joshua Tree, every time I've gone, the energy is just insane. Like it's just so peaceful. It's so pure in its own right. And even more so, and maybe this is even another cool thing that I'm kind of figuring out here, is whenever I was in Egypt, kind of like in the pyramids, the energy was so powerful there as well. And the people in Egypt weren't the nicest people at all. So all of this to say that I do believe that there are energetic vortexes, if you will, how do you say this? I don't want to, I feel like if you say, you could present this in the wrong way and come across as crazy. And maybe some of you are already like, he's crazy. And you might be listening because you think I'm crazy. So that's cool too. Whatever reason you want to listen to me for. But there has to be some sort of, I guess there doesn't have to be. I don't know what the scientific rationale of it is. I'm going to definitely figure this out one day. But different points of the earth definitely create different energy that affects the people, that affects you wherever you're at. You know, I'm sure there's probably extreme examples of this. I also know, if people are familiar with this, of ley lines, which are energetic kind of like the chakra system of the earth. And I'm not going to go too deep into it because I'm not very well researched on it, but I bring it up. I bring this up because it exists. There are reasons that this is a thing. My mind's kind of getting sidetracked right now, and I think it's because it's getting late. It's late here. I'm excited for Joshua Tree tomorrow, and I want to make sure that I just give you guys good information and don't kind of fill it with all this extra hubbalub. So with that being said, guys, please, hopefully I gave you some sort of information here that helps you reconsider something, especially if you have that friend that's thinking about a long-term move of some sort. Please share this podcast with them. It might just be what they need to hear. And if you are that friend listening to this, then maybe this is what you needed to hear. If you felt like a negative kind of trigger, maybe, whenever I said this kind of stuff, I think that could be your sign that you need to go and make that jump to that city that you have been thinking about moving to, that you have been considering but not pulling the trigger on. I think this is your sign. Take this as your sign. But even if you don't take it as your sign, that's totally cool. But there is one thing for sure, and that is that we will see each other in the 6th dimension.